Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks, and this is our quick review of the Moto E. So the Moto E is Motorola's new entry-level smartphone. It comes with a 4.3-inch QHD display running at 960 by 540 pixels, has a dual-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 200 in there, running at 1.2 gigahertz. That is the MSM 208210, I think. And it is equipped with 1 gig of RAM and 4 gigs of onboard flash storage. There's a micro SD card slot, which I'll show you in a second. And you have this speaker down here. Up there is the earpiece. We have no front camera. These are just the sensors for light and distance. If you look around the device and look at the sides, you'll see that this thing is pretty thick, but it still feels good in the hand since it's got this rounded back right here. We have the matte white version right here. There's also a black model, and you can get a load of different colors to accessorize and customize your device with different colors. We have a 5 megapixel camera on the back without a flash and even without autofocus, so the pictures are not going to be that great. Up top we have the headset jack and the noise cancellation mic. On the sides again, on and off button and the volume rocker. On the bottom you get a standard micro USB 2.0 port, and there's pretty much nothing on the left. Now I'll open up the device and show you the inside. So now I got the back off the Moto E, and as you can see, this is the 1980 milliamp hour battery that is non-user removable, so you have to go to a service center or send it in to get this removed and exchanged if that's necessary. You have a micro SD card slot for storage extension down here, and this is the single SIM slot on this model. There's also a dual SIM version coming out, and up here we have the 5 megapixel camera. The backs are a bit thinner than on the Moto G, for example, and they feel kind of flimsy, but this is a device verification testing model, so it's a pre-production sample, so I can't really tell you if this is production quality. In my case, the cover actually tends to wobble a bit up and down, so it's kind of slippery on the back, but that's probably fixed in the production version. Another thing is that the power button on the side is kind of hard to press, so you have to really hit it pretty hard to get it to react. The volume rocker is also pretty deep in the casing, so it's kind of hard to press, but that has maybe changed in the production runs now. Other than that, the device weighs in at 143 grams, I think, so it's 1 gram more than the Moto G. Pretty light still, and it feels like a decent phone. Although it's only 89 euros in India, for example, like 7,000 rupees over there. Converted, that's about 90 euros, or 120 in Germany, for example, or 119 USD, I think. Still feels like a premium handset. So it's not flimsy, or there's nothing bending it right back here, and it feels very sturdy, and it should definitely last long. Let's talk about the display. The screen is pretty decent. It has good resolution. I mean, if you look closely, you'll see that there might be some pixels that you'll be able to see when you hold it close to your face. But if you keep it at the typical distance where you would be using your smartphone, the resolution is totally fine. It's 960 by 540, so it's not 720 or anything, but it's definitely decent. There's one gripe about the screen: it's not the brightest. It's definitely not the brightest. So out in the sunlight, you will have some issues reading the screen, and especially for countries like India and other countries in the southern hemisphere, that might be a problem if you're using this phone outside a lot, because it's kind of hard to read that screen. Also, the viewing angles are not the best, so the colors are washing out pretty quickly, but it's still a decent IPS panel that Motorola is using on this device. Color reproduction is pretty good. Those are some very bright and very nice saturated colors on the screen, so it's definitely a good screen. Memory-wise, Motorola is definitely doing a good job on this, because they have integrated 1 gig of RAM, which is totally fine. Other entry-level smartphones at this price point only have 512 megs, which tends to be a bit too little, so 1 gig is actually awesome from Motorola to put this in here. But I want to talk about the internal storage. So let me just switch to storage right here. So the device only has about 2 gigs available to the user. The rest is taken up by the operating system and other software. And you can install stuff on the memory card, on the internal flash storage, but you tend to run out. But what Motorola has actually done here is they have integrated the possibility to install apps to the onboard flash store, to the micro SD card slot. So in this case, I think we have something on the SD card right here. So although this is Android 4.4 KitKat, you are definitely able to install stuff on the SD card. In some cases, it will show that, for example, Asphalt 8 is installed on the SD card, but down here you can see that it not really is on that card, because if I have a game of 1.43 gigs installed on the SD card, there cannot be only 322 megs occupied. So that's a bit strange, but the other games are definitely on the SD card. So although this is KitKat, you can install stuff on the SD card, which is great because you only have 4 gigs of onboard flash storage. So you gotta wonder why all the other manufacturers are having problems realizing the same thing on other devices with KitKat. So definitely nicely done, Motorola, and makes life easier for a lot of people, because if you want to play games, you can definitely install these, or most of them, on the SD card on this. Software-wise, we're talking about a totally blank Android KitKat. So there's been no modifications on the interface. You get the standard Google launcher. Motorola installs a bunch of apps, for example, Motorola Assist up here and Motorola Alert, that give you a bunch of small features. For example, that they turn off calling when you want to sleep or whatever, so that those help a bit in day-to-day use. There's also a migration feature down here to make it easy to transfer files and contacts and stuff from your old device. But other than that, it's a pretty much unmodified Android experience running Android 4.4.2 KitKat, and they're definitely promising to upgrade to the next major version when that comes out. So software-wise, definitely a pleasant experience on the Moto E right here. Performance is also pretty good on the Moto E. So you have a 960 by 540 resolution, 1 gig of RAM, and only 1.2 gigahertz on this. But in day-to-day use, it's actually really a quick device. So there's no lag on the interface or whatever. All the stuff is really quickly loading, or at least the interface parts are quickly loading. When you're starting apps, there tends to be times when it takes a while for games, for example, to start. So it might take a bit longer for Asphalt 8 and other games, or other hardware-heavy stuff to load. But other than that, it's definitely a decent experience. It's one of the most optimized devices that we have dealt with, and the interface even is faster on this than, for example, the Galaxy S5. So there's a bunch of videos that other people have done where they show off how this device is actually quicker than on a couple, than, for example, the Moto, the Samsung Galaxy S5. So let's just try out a quick game right here. Skip the tutorial and head right in. All these ads from Gameloft right here. You'll also notice that the speaker is down here on the front, and it's definitely a nice speaker. It's pretty loud. It's a mono speaker, but it works pretty well. I'm just trying to work my way through this loading time right here, so that's one of the pretty good example that the device tends to be a bit slow when loading, but other than that, the performance is definitely decent. Hope you can hear that sound. I'm using a Zoom recorder right here, so it's full stereo. So when playing games, you'll see that there's a bit of stutter. I'm using the highest settings right here, so you might have some smaller issues with the game stuttering a bit. But if you lower the performance or the graphics settings, for example, and the effects, and when there's nothing else running in the back, I think I'm installing a browser right now, the device is definitely well able to play most major games right now. So also in this case, definitely a nice job done by Motorola here on the performance side of things. Let's turn off that game and get back to the interface, because I want to talk to you about the camera. Let me just throw these away and let's move into the camera. I'm just gonna show you the floor of our office right here. The camera doesn't even have an autofocus, so as you can see, the autofocus ring is missing right here. You just tap to shoot and take a picture. These pics tend to be pretty good in daylight, but as soon as you move into shadows or get into a place that is not as well lit, you will definitely encounter some huge problems on this camera. Also, the resolution is only 5 megapixel, so the quality is not going to be the greatest. Again, there's no flash, so generally the low light photographing is probably going to be not a good idea, not a good thing to do with the Moto E. Battery life is definitely something that Motorola is also managing very well on the Moto E. Oops, I'm going to... So that's the battery part. I've been using this device for a couple of weeks now, and it is definitely one of the strongest devices in battery life that I've seen so far. I've just charged this up and it's still at 100% after 3 hours of use, or after 3 hours of, well, it's just changed to 99% now. Before that, I had it laying around without a SIM card, connected to the Wi-Fi though, and the device actually managed to stay in standby for just under 9 days. So that 1980 milliamp hour battery in the back is definitely doing a good job, combined with this pretty energy efficient dual core from Qualcomm right here. So you should definitely make it through the day with this device if you're not a really heavy user and taxing the device a lot, for example for gaming, and have a very long on-screen time while using the device. Motorola has really done a good job on the Moto E. It's a very, very well-made entry-level smartphone that is definitely making or causing some headaches at other manufacturers right now. I don't think they're making a lot of money on this, but again, as on the Moto G, that's not what they want. They just want to deliver a decent Android experience, make money on in other ways. Right now, they're sold to Motorola, and there's plenty of money over there. This is supposed to grab market share, and it's definitely a good way to do it. It's not the most beautiful design because, for example, those chrome bars down here should have, in my opinion, they should have done away with these and left them out, because the Moto G, for example, looks a lot better, and you could have also done just basic holes down here to integrate those speakers. But other than that, it keeps the Motorola design language, having those curved backs and stuff. Feels very well in the hand. It has a decent weight. It's not too heavy. It has a very long battery life. It's got a CPU that is powerful enough, and yeah, overall, it's a pretty well-made smartphone. At least if you remember that it's only $119 or 89 euros converted from rupees, from 7,000 rupees. Over in India, even for 120 euros including taxes, and on the German market, it is definitely a very well-made smartphone, and a bunch of other companies already trying to react to that. So Nokia, for example, has released the Nokia Lumia 630 in the UK, dropping the price to only £89 to cope with this, because this is also only £89 in UK, and it's definitely a good contender in the smartphone market right now, at least in the lower end. There's just two things that I want to that I'm even able to criticize on this. For one, it's the screen. It's definitely a great screen. It's a good screen, but they should have used a panel that has more brightness. So even in normal lighting, it tends to look a bit dark. If you go outside, you'll definitely have problems reading this. In the sunlight, in cloudy weather, for example, it will definitely be good. But there's other devices that have much brighter displays, even at this price point. And another thing is the camera on the back, because that 5 megapixel shooter without autofocus and the flash is definitely not the best thing to do. But again, it's just 89 euros or pounds in this case, so that can be overlooked. Other than that, great job Motorola on the Moto E right here. And I was Ron from Mobile Geeks, checking out the Moto E for you. And if you like what we do, just comment down there and join the other people that have subscribed to our channel. See ya.